When people think of modern day conspiracy theories on the internet, they usually think of the darker corners of the internet, bad graphics on forum boards, subcultures that exist far from the bounds of accepted society, like 4chan vibes.
I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening. It was like a weird hologram and it had like big black eyes.
Thanks to unexpected common ground between different groups and the rapid proliferation of information through the internet, conspiracy theories have a new look.
Really want to piss somebody off these days? Just tell them you're a patriot. Tell them you believe in the integrity of the family unit.
They manipulated data and coerced an entire group of people to take an injection, even though they knew that it contradicted their philosophical and religious beliefs, based on the premise that health is a one-size-fits-all.
Personally, I am not celebrating Pride Month. It's just that some of us have been able to peel back the veil and find that the system that touts this faux individualism is actually creating as many individuals as possible to become a blank, controllable avatar of the system.
They come in pretty and polished packages with graphics that draw you in. They're spread by women respected by their communities and on platforms that you and I use.
Down the rabbit hole you go, the more you know. So no, I am not a foe. I've simply exited the matrix, the system that ultimately seeks to control.
Tell them you believe in natural medicine and our body's innate capability to heal.
They lied to all of us about the effectiveness of lockdowns and masks.
And now they're not just ridiculous ideas that most don't take seriously, they're becoming more and more of a threat to public safety.
Oh, tell them that your baby doesn't need to go to the doctor every 2 months. Tell them that public school's a sham and that you're going to educate your kids at home better than anybody else could.
Imagine a virus so deadly that you have to be tested in order to know that you have it.
So no, love is not love, and love is not pride.
Today we are diving into the radicalization pipeline that is bringing these fringe conspiracy theories into the mainstream.
Maybe when all of the guns have been banned, when all of the words have been censored, when history has been erased and your freedoms have been taken, maybe then you will realize that you should have spoken up instead of remained silent.
Welcome to the Clown Town. We're Val and Gus. Usually we talk about the hip happenings of the multi-level marketing world, but today we are going to be diving into a related topic called Pastel QAnon.
Pastel QAnon is a term that was coined by our boy Marc, argentino icon. This sensation kicked off in March 2020 when many countries around the world were experiencing their first lockdowns due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This time inside with nothing left to do left people wondering what to fill their days with. And for many, they filled it with QAnon. QAnon's ideology is flexible and convoluted, serving as an umbrella term for several existing and some newer conspiracy theories.
QAnon has always been a big tent conspiracy theory that invites people of different beliefs. And the thing is, because the QAnon narrative is so broad and sprawling, people can kind of enter it and pick out the things that they like the best. That paired with the Facebook algorithm, which recommends like other groups that someone might be interested in, that turns into a very dangerous combination.
Different believers latch on to different pillars, but most believers seem to agree that Donald Trump is locked in a battle with the deep state in an attempt to ruin a ring of pedophiles and child traffickers that include high-profile people as co-conspirators.
Argentino defines Pastel QAnon as a community made up primarily of female influencers who promote QAnon messaging on social media. More extreme messages are often dispersed amongst other content, using story highlights, lives, or third-party content like Linktree to make the QAnon messaging less overt so that non-QAnon people are still interested in following.
According to Cecily Guerin for Wired, Pastel QAnon content uses coded language, talking of awakening, enlightenment, and seeking one's own truth. This not only maintains a level of subtlety, it helps bypass existing protections that social media platforms use to monitor conspiracy theories.
Using aesthetics that are on trend and not being consistently obvious about Q beliefs tempers the conspiratorial messaging that people are used to seeing on 4chan and makes it more palatable to more audiences. The usual cues that let us know that we're dealing with conspiracies are missing in these cases.
And these are all packaged up in very pretty posts that are easily digestible.
The colors are a lot softer. There's a lot of pastels, and it's very pretty and nice. And if you look at it without reading the words, you would think it would be just like any other kind of yoga-inspired Instagram post.
Like Caitlin Tiffany wrote for The Atlantic, "There's no warning, just a warm, glamorous facade, and then the rabbit hole." This messaging slipped into the algorithm easily amidst the social justice content that dominated social media during the summer of 2020.
As Vox reported, at first glance, the memes under the hashtag #SaveTheChildren don't look that different from anything else you'd expect to see on Instagram. This hashtag sounds innocent enough, but was hijacked by QAnon supporters to spread misinformation about the realities of human trafficking.
Save the Children is, as I say, it's a simple rebrand of QAnon. It's a very simple and effective message to bring the QAnon movement to a wider audience. You know, who doesn't want to save children?
Kurt Braddock says that these seemingly well-intentioned messages, along with their aesthetics, can communicate to users that not only is a post fashionable, it's helpful.
But this misinformation hurts people who are trying to fight the realities of child trafficking with real information.
Most people kind of have this idea in their head that it's, children being lifted off the streets and been shipped overseas, although that does happen, it doesn't happen at all to the extent that QAnon followers believe that it does.
And so we've seen this actually repeatedly, the ways in which the misinformation that this kind of save the children style of QAnon is promoting damages real efforts to actually help children.
Argentino used a sample of 76 social media accounts with a combined follower count of over 2.7 million followers. He found 4 types of these accounts who build their brand, content, and following around these general pillars and eventually weave QAnon in to radicalize their following.
The first is MLM reps, influencers who built their following via various MLM schemes, the type of which we cover a lot on this channel.
And I heard the phrase, "Don't listen to them, especially if they're trying to sell you something." Literally, that makes no sense. And it's really annoying. If you watch TV, if you've ever seen a commercial, if you watch Netflix, if you have an email address, if you have a mailing address, you are constantly being sold to.
There are esoteric practitioners, influencers who share content around concepts like New Age spirituality, Gnosticism, mediumship, or belief in the Galactic Federation.
That is how you have to manifest in your life. Instead of worrying about things not happening, have a joyful expectation that everything in your life that you desire is coming to you in divine time.
There are lifestyle influencers comprised of women who built their brand as fitness coaches and lifestyle coaches.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. They are after our children.
And there are alternative healers, content creators who promote natural parenting, exotic diets, are anti-vax, or alternative medicine and cures.
This is a natural pool. It's man-made, obviously, but there's fish in there, so that means there's no chlorine. And I'm here for the no chlorine part.
Take the example of Little Miss Patriot, a 23-year-old mother who amassed nearly 100,000 followers in less than a month for sharing visually pleasing graphics that spread QAnon narratives. Stephanie McNeil reported for BuzzFeed that Little Miss Patriot spoon-fed her followers damaging lies in pretty packages. Miss Patriot shilled multi-level marketing products to remove toxins from your body at a cellular level.
According to Argentino, these tactics create new recruitment and radicalization pipelines for women and for younger audiences not familiar with QAnon. Unfortunately, it also means that more and more people are aligning with the QAnon map of reality as truth.
A study by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, or the CCDH, found that 31 million people follow anti-vaccine groups on Facebook, and another 17 million subscribe to similar accounts on YouTube. QAnon members were at the forefront of the January 6th insurrection and have been elected to prominent positions of American government.
Many of her posts have been removed, but her support for QAnon still lives online.
Now, Q is a patriot.
And according to Nick Bakovic, the demographics of QAnon marches in the UK weren't your typically red-pilled conspiracy theorists. They were worried moms and dads who had been scared into believing these exaggerated stats that aren't backed up by any evidence. It's time to reckon with why and how QAnon became all of our problem, an assertion made by Alex Kaplan in 2020.
Last year, the FBI identified QAnon as a potential domestic terror threat.
If you believe your government is being controlled by satanic sex traffickers, that's almost an invitation to take action on its own.
Something that we have to reckon with as a society is that QAnon didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Their tenets are drawing up on a broader, established, and sometimes normalized traditions of conspiracy, white supremacy, and toxic wellness culture. As much as QAnon believers feel they are ushering in a great awakening of a new age, the misinformation that fuels their outrage has existed far before 4chan.
For example, David Lawrence notes that QAnon ideology, such as elite pedophile rings engaging in large-scale child trafficking, have long been promoted by British conspiracy theorists. One of the first gay panics of the modern era, coined as the Eulenburg Affair of 1906, also evoked public outrage over an elite circle of pederasts, as reported by James Kirchick. And the anti-Semitic trope of the secret annual cabal of rabbis that ritually abuse and sacrifice children can be traced back to the year 1173, according to Tal Levin for New Republic. This secret cabal of elites, as well as homophobia, racism, and anti-Semitism, have all been adopted and repackaged by QAnon for the modern age.
In an effort to keep our nation divided, the Associated Press has officially made the decision to capitalize the word black. However, white will remain in lowercase. Mainstream media continues to manufacture blatant racism.
The elites run everything. They cast spells, they do rituals, like it's all part of their religion.
White women are one of the most dangerous groups in the United States and abroad. Whiteness is a cult, and they will always come to the defense of their cult members.
Okay, so this right here is why racism is never gonna end. Yo, people are people, and this woman is racist.
Wellness gurus and modern spiritualists, in particular yoga practitioners, are some of the biggest consumers and creators of both Pastel QAnon and regular QAnon type content.
When the pandemic shut down life as we knew it in 2020, the online yoga industry took off. There were group Zoom classes or the option to follow your favorite teacher on social media, where you might get to join them in a live stream, learn about what they were cooking to stay healthy, and hear their theories about why you should not get the COVID-19 vaccine.
Wellness culture in its most toxic forms can intersect very easily with white supremacy, extremist pursuits, and conspiracy, and its historical links are well documented. Kate Imey wrote for Cambridge about how two retired British military officers embraced fascism and yoga. One, Yeats Brown, saw yoga as a celebration of Aryan racial inheritance, and the other, Fuller, thought yoga could show men to be strong leaders.
Nazi Germany's interest in astrology and alternative medicine is well known, and Nazi occultism has influenced other similar white supremacist movements such as Wotan's folk. And more recently, this intersection has come to the fore of current discussion, as it has become public knowledge that the QAnon shaman, one of the most famous figures of the attempted insurrection and storming of the US Capitol, is a yoga practitioner who's on an organic diet.
Jacob Chansley, that's the Arizona man who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021, perhaps better known as the QAnon shaman. Now he plans to run for Congress.
One of the co-hosts of the Conspirituality podcasts might have an explanation. They believe that yoga and the modern spirituality movement have adopted 3 tenets that are essential to any conspiracy theory. Everything is connected, nothing happens without a reason, and nothing is as it appears.
From my research, what I feel is that they're connected in this sense of hyper-individualism. So on the right side, you have this idea that the government should have no say at all in your lives, keep them out of our lives. There's this idea of sovereignty. And then on the left, the themes are similar, even if the language is different. So having worked in the yoga space for so long, the idea that you are your own doctor, you know better than anyone else. These are ideas that have been chronic in this industry for decades.
Ciaran Kale wrote for The Guardian that modern wellness culture is structured around 3 different tenets that align closely to QAnon beliefs: robust individualism, distrust of Western medicine and authority, and a committing to self-optimization. While seeming completely random at first, there are clear intersections between QAnon beliefs and those of the modern spirituality movement and toxic wellness culture, and these intersections have made radicalization to QAnon easier and faster.
So there's nothing wrong with taking that online yoga class or downloading a meditation app. Just be sure to apply the same fact-checking standards to claims made in these spaces that you would anywhere else on social media.
Whether truly radicalized by QAnon or not, some high-profile yoga influencers and New Age spiritual leaders saw the beginning of the pandemic as an opportunity to assuage their new followers' newfound fears with misinformation.
Because the guides were hounding me. They're like, you need to record this now. We have a message for the people, for the chosen ones. So this message is going to be directly tailored for the starseeds, the way showers, the light raisers, the frequency holders, the grid stabilizers, the galactic shamans, the chosen ones.
They were further encouraged to do so when they saw that their anti-big pharma posts were getting a lot more engagement than the regular content.
A lot of people who get into QAnon, especially if they're struggling influencers, they notice that these QAnon themes, they're like an internet cheat code because they attract people who are very engaged. They spend a lot of time online. And if you start promoting QAnon themes, you start noticing that you're getting a lot more likes and shares, that could be a big incentive to keep doing it.
The more radical their posts, the more people, both critical and complimentary of their posts, interacted with them. This dopamine pull encourages influencers to skew extreme, which further indoctrinates them towards conspiratorial thinking.
Mark my words, the only 2 options moving forward, number 1 is huge corporation where you make $15 an hour, you scrape by, you sit at home crying, how am I going to pay my bills, how am I going to feed my kids? Socialism. That's option number 1. Communism. That's what they want. The guys at the top, the 11 new billionaires that were made during this planned demic, those 11 new billionaires, they want you to sit at home. They want you to sit at home in a communist situation where you are dependent on them for every fucking thing that you need.
As Callum Hood explains, the more people get this kind of social reinforcement, the more anti-vax, as an example, they become. And this kind of social reinforcement is clearly possible through this kind of content. This audience has likely only grown with the popularization of conspiratorial beliefs and the inability for social platforms to properly regulate these kinds of posts.
In 2019, Taylor Lorenz wrote that, although it had largely escaped scrutiny, Instagram was likely where the next battle of information would be fought. According to a researcher at the Center for Countering Digital Hate, social media in a lot of ways is still the Wild West. The COVID-19 health crisis and the rising fear of vaccines have exacerbated this. In 2020, research by the CCDH found that social media platforms had failed to act on 95% of the COVID and vaccine misinformation that was reported to them.
And the way that Pastel QAnon uses coded language have complicated this further. While hashtags using typical QAnon language have been removed, more subtle hashtags that aren't inherently harmful, like Save the Children, are much more difficult to moderate. These hashtags are one of 2 primary ways that people can discover QAnon, the other being the recommendations algorithm that pushes followers to accounts that post similar content that you usually interact with. This second way especially has rapidly spread this kind of content to new audiences, and it has not been slowed down in significant ways as far as we've seen reported.
Ultimately, factors like the use of existing conspiracy theories, the softening of conspiratorial messages, and the inability for social media platforms to properly moderate these posts have prompted the proliferation of QAnon to new and unlikely audiences in the form of the Pastel QAnon phenomena. However, there is a third element of QAnon that could also have attracted this audience. The theory that QAnon exists not just as a group of conspiracy theorists, but as a hyper-real religion that people think will solve their problems.
Sociologist Adam Pasomai coined the term, which can be put more simply as a religion that has a strong connection to pop culture. QAnon takes elements of popular culture that are already a part of the collective imagination, like conspiracy theories, historical facts, and mythical history from popular culture, and it consolidates them into an ideological framework that gives people inspiration and a source of belief. In Religious Dispatch's discussion of QAnon as a hyper-real religion, they pointed to several film references being part of the ideology. The Matrix red pill, blue pill being used by followers as a metaphor. The film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is recommended to Q followers as evidence of adrenochrome.
What is this shit? That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome?
And the group's slogan, "Where we go one, we go all," is from the film White Squall.
Where we go one, we go all.
Another element that points to QAnon as a religious ideology and not just as a group of conspiracies is the way it attempts to crowdsource answers to the inexplicable. As the conversation writes, the essence of QAnon lies in its attempt to delineate and explain evil, which it does by giving complex problems simple answers. This gives comfort to its adherents in an age of unprecedented amounts of information, while forming a worldview characterized by a sharp distinction between good and evil. By seeing QAnon as a hyper-real religion rather than a decentralized group of conspiracy theorists, we can view acts of violence committed by QAnon conspiracists as ideologically motivated violent extremism.
A QAnon follower blocked the Hoover Dam with an armored vehicle.
A far-right conspiracy theorist was planning a kidnapping in Douglas County.
A 24-year-old man was charged in the shooting death of a reputed mob boss. His attorneys argued he was motivated by QAnon.
In our opinion, the Pastel QAnon phenomena was able to exist and proliferate as much as it was because of these factors. The softening of QAnon propaganda through the use of coded language and its imagery, the use of existing conspiracy theories, the inability for proper moderation on social media of these theories, and the proliferation of QAnon as a hyper-realistic religion. As artificial intelligence gets even more capable of producing fake content, and elections in several countries looms large, stopping this kind of beautiful misinformation in its tracks is key to ending this pipeline.